So this is gonna be a beautiful winter project that goes with the picture book, The Snowy Day. And we're basically gonna be creating a page out of the book. We're creating a winter landscape. So you can decide if you want to hold your paper tall. And if you hold it tall, we're basically going to make our tree much taller on the paper and maybe make only one or two of them. If we decide to hold our paper wide, then we might have maybe 3 or 4 trees. They're going to be a little shorter, but they're going to fill up more of the space. So decide on what kind of style you want. I think I'm going to make mine a little taller, and I'll stick to one major big tree. Now there's 2 things we have to think about when we draw a realistic tree. Branches are always in the shape of letter Ys. Now they're not like regular Ys, they might be a little crooked or backwards, but we want to always draw letter Ys when we make branches. And a tree trunk is always going to be a little bit thicker on the bottom. Okay, so those are the 2 things that we want to think about when we're drawing. So I'm actually going to start out with a crayon, not a pencil, but the crayon is going to act like my pencil because then we're going to go in later and add a lot of colors into this. So don't worry so much about filling this in. This is more like a pencil sketch. So you can also think about how you want your tree on your paper. You might crop a part of it, which means it's going to be cut off the edge. Okay, the whole tree might not be on it, or the whole tree might be on it. That's totally up to you. I think I'm gonna crop because I want this to look realistic, and I just think that when you crop, it makes it look a little more real. So going back to what I said, I'm gonna start out with a letter Y, and that's gonna be my tree trunk part of my picture. So maybe I have my Y going like this. Okay, and again, this is basically acting like a pencil. This is going to be my tree trunk, and these are going to be the 2 large branches. Actually have that go off a little bit. Now, I'm also going to think about the other big branches. So I'm going to just keep adding large Ys, and you'll see I'm making them a little crooked, right? It's not perfect. Now you want to start from biggest to smallest. So after you have your largest branches, then you can start to make other letter Ys coming off of the big ones. Maybe they'll be like medium, like a medium size. I'm gonna have one go up there and go off the page. And I'm just seeing where I think it might look good. I'm gonna just kind of look as a whole picture and then see where I'm missing something, and that's where I'll add it. And there's really no right or wrong for this. I kind of like how that looks. Maybe I'll have that go all the way to the edge. Okay, so you're gonna just keep adding until you're happy with the medium-sized branches. Now the last part, it's really looking real already, but the last part is I'm gonna start to make even smaller letter Ys. Some of them might be actually like really tiny. That's up to you. Okay, and as you get to the edge, they just get a little smaller. And you can always fill in wherever you feel like you're missing something. And just keep going until you're happy with it. Okay, so I drew a few more, and I did all of the ones that I'd like. Now, the next thing I need to do is make my tree trunk a little more realistic. So I'm just gonna make an outline where it gets a little thicker at the bottom. Remember that thing that we said in the beginning. And again, I don't want it to be so perfect. I want to make a little bit of bumps or things that are not as perfect to make it look more real. And if you want to change it, that's fine too. Like maybe I want this part to be a little thicker. Don't worry, because it's going to be filled in at the end. Okay, this is really just acting like a pencil. So now that my drawing of the tree part is done with my crayon, I'm now going to use oil pastels, and that's where we're going to start playing with the thicknesses of making certain branches look thin or thick, and also blending different colors together. So I'm actually just going to take out the neutral colors. So these are going to be all of the colors that are not on the color wheel and that are more like a tree. Okay, so I think I finished all the branches and the tree trunk, and everything is filled in completely. You see that I don't have any paper showing through the tree because we want it to look realistic. We don't want it to look like you can see through it. And then another reminder is just be very careful, because oil pastels, remember, they get really messy. So if they get on your fingers and then you touch the paper, you're gonna get fingerprints all over your paper. So that's why when you just saw me coloring this, you might have noticed that I was rotating my paper just to make it a little easier so that I didn't lean on anything, and I kept my paper really nice and clean. Now for the next step of this project, after we finish drawing our tree out and filling it in with all those neutral color oil pastels, we're gonna be doing two more things. First, before we start painting or after we start painting, that depends on where you want it to be, but we're gonna pick one thing, just like Peter's red snowsuit in the snowy day, we're gonna pick one thing to be red in our pictures. Now, you don't have to do a snowsuit, you can do anything. You can do a red cardinal, a bird. You can do a red scarf. Maybe you want to put a red mitten in the snow. Anything that's red. And that's gonna be our emphasis of our project. And emphasis means that when you're looking at it, it's what our eyes go to first. And because everything is really neutral colors, and this is the only thing that's gonna be red, that's gonna be where our eyes look when we look at the painting. Now, if you're gonna be doing something in the snow, like a mitten on the ground, or maybe you do a snowman and you wanna put a hat on your snowman, anything that is part of snow or on top of snow, you're gonna do this step after you paint. If it does not involve snow, like a bird or anything hanging off a tree, then you can do it first. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do a scarf hanging off of the tree. And since that doesn't really involve snow, and it's not part of something that's gonna be on top of snow, then I can do that first. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw my scarf hanging off a tree branch. I want it to look like it's actually like really hanging. So I'm gonna make it look like it's behind the branch, and then I'm gonna have it come this way on top. So it looks like it's right on top of the branch. It's gonna be a little overlapping there to make it look realistic. Do some fringes at the end like a regular scarf. And that's gonna be my red emphasis of my project. Now we're gonna move to the snow. Okay, so the first thing we need to think about is the branches. We're gonna move from top to bottom. That way we don't lean on anything and get it all messed up. So the branches, we already talked about this in the beginning of the project, but snow piles up in the little sections, these little V shapes on top of branches, right? Because snow falls from the sky. So you're gonna go around, get a little white on your brush, and you're gonna think of where you want the snow to basically create these little piles. And they're gonna go inside of those V shapes, and they also can be on top of branches, right? You can have piles on top. The only thing is it's most likely not gonna be underneath a branch because snow doesn't come from the ground, it comes from the sky. So go around and see where you might want any snow to pile up. And you're gonna repeat this for as much as you want. You could have a giant snowstorm, or you can just have a little bit of snow falling like flurries from the sky. That's up to you. Okay, so I went ahead and I added some of those clumps of snow or piles of snow that gather in the branches. And again, you saw I was really paying attention to staying on top of the branch, not underneath. Okay, that's something you really want to go slow with so that you can concentrate. And the next thing we're going to do is the ground. So again, you're going to decide if you want your ground to have a lot of snow on it, or maybe just a little bit of snow on it. If you want to show maybe like a little bump or a little hill. You also can decide if you want your tree to look like it's in front of the snow pile that you're making. And if it is, you're gonna do exactly what I'm doing right now. You're gonna go right around your tree trunk, okay? If you want it to look like it's like behind the snow pile, you're just gonna go right over it, okay? You don't have to worry about going around the edges. I'm gonna make it look like mine is in front. So I'm just gonna continue that line to the other side, make my line at the edge, and then I'll keep going. And I don't need any water for this because I'm using the same color. So if you're using the same color, you don't need to wash your brush off at all. And I'm just gonna keep going with the white. And you could make it, again, as low to the ground or as high to the ground. I'm not gonna make it look like it's a crazy snowstorm. I'm just gonna make it look like there was a little bit of snow left on the ground. Now, I'm gonna leave mine like that, but if you want, you could do anything with the snow. You can make a snowman even out of the white paint. So decide where you want the snow to be, and then that's your next part. Now, the final part of this project, and this is the really fun part, we're gonna make the snowflakes falling from the sky. Now, we're not gonna use our brush for this. We're actually gonna use the back of the brush, and this is a little artist's trick for making snowflakes look real. Now, you can make it look like a blizzard and have a ton of snowflakes, or you can have it just look like it's flurrying. You're gonna dip the back of your brush into the paint, just like that, and you're literally going to make dots on your paper. And you can repeat that as much as you want. Now, I'm also gonna I want it to look real, so I'm gonna go right in front of my tree. It's gonna go in front of the tree as well, because when it's snowing, it's not like it snows only around the tree, right? So if you want it to look like it is realistic, you can have a couple of those snowflakes actually cover your tree trunk, your branches, and just kind of scatter them randomly around your picture. And you have a beautiful, beautiful snowy day painting.